Hey there, folks. Coming back after a little bit of a break, looking at the market internal review for November 20th, 2023. Okay, so we've had a monumental rise in price most of November. Quite an incredible from, from October 27th, we were at 409, and we are now at our high is 455.16. 13 it looks like, but that's close enough. We have left behind many gaps, much significant range as far as I'm concerned, and we've even cleared all of these particular candles that I had pointed out in past videos could provide some kind of significant price movement, but lo and behold, they skipped right over it. This was a massive gap day that we had. It was about a $5 gap almost. We had about 3 days of capitulation here, and then today we break into quite a significant statement range. So looking at this particular gap that we've got, and there's the high of the gap right there, the low of that candle. So we closed just below the 50%. Closed just below the 50% of that, so 454.48. I'll be honest, I'm quite terrified to do any kind of short side sentiment based analysis on SPY. I feel like here lately it's just been proving that there's no downside whatsoever. But I guess my immediate thoughts are that if we're going to stay around here, I would maybe look to see if we could come back and touch the 10 SMA, but I highly doubt that's going to happen. Seems like we've pretty much decided what's going to happen is we're going to come up here and we're going to test this this high on SPY. This is still not the high on SPY. We've got 461, and we also way up here have almost 480. So relative highs though, closest, and for this year we've got July. The highest we were able to achieve was 459 there, and prior to that, you can see 2023 kicked us off. We were way lower. But a lot of people are wishing they would have bought SPY down here at around 378. So November, we have done a tremendous amount of work. We have the holidays upcoming, and we also have, I believe, not much economic data being released. Let's see if I'm mistaken though. Yeah, from our last video. Okay, so GDP growth on November 29th. On November 30th, we've got some things. Inflation rate, PCE, GDP. So we've got a couple things here. Not too much, though, between now and then. So I would just continue to focus on upside. If you didn't see it already, the chart down here for growth stocks above 20-day, you can see we are definitely at what was at one point considered a high point. That was a high, and we came back down from there for just a little bit before we bounced off of this mid zone and came right back up. We did that a couple times, and that's how we reached that peak of about 460 before we really started to do some retracement work. So given that we're here on the growth chart, I'll definitely keep that in mind, but I can't say the bulls are weak here. We've had tremendous buying. We've reclaimed our monthly trend line that we've had for quite some time. We've still got the weekly trend line. I need to stretch that out apparently, go to higher time frames and maybe find some things, but we're above all major standard simple moving averages rather on the daily. So I think the 10 SMA and the 20 definitely support the idea of a pullback. We've got tons of gaps down here, but boy, I just, every time I think there would be a reason for a pullback, there's more buying. So 454 and change, that's going to be kind of my pivot level here. If we gap up above that, well, I'm just going to keep finding more wicks to target. If we hold below that, then I'll start thinking about maybe seeing some kind of retracement on November, and find some things to anchor this low, this gap area, 50% of that gap, which would be like 443, 444. Another thing to look at is our monthly TWAP analysis, and we've done tremendous work since my last video here. We reclaimed last week, I believe, the first standard deviation. Okay, so November 10th, 10 days ago, we reclaimed the first standard deviation on the month and broke through the second deviation into third, only for a moment, and then we kind of had this range consolidation area. We didn't really break out of that actually until last week. We kind of saw a couple peaks. We had one here. Tighten this up a little bit, maybe you can make some arguments that we did some things in between, but basically Friday is where we kind of got our first little taste of maybe we're going to break out, and then today we definitely did. Make no mistake, we absolutely did. And also important is for monthly TWAP, we broke out of the October range. So this is the last October range. So that's third deviation on the upside for the October range, 447. Any other time I have seen us break out of prior month's range, we usually have a pullback. But there's always obviously room for outliers. Qs has been largely doing the exact same thing as SPY, and we hit some July range levels. We crushed November's high. Obviously we made a new one today. July TWAP. Every level I put on here was basically trashed overnight because of a gap up. So I haven't even really been paying attention to these, but you can definitely tell we're back up into summer ranges, obviously. So Qs is no different. It had just the same amount of range last week, momentum today. Same thing for the Dow. Range last week, momentum breakout today. Look at these 2 days. We had almost the exact same highs on the daily, and then that's what we broke today. So we had that first little rejection here, and we break down back below, and then we had this bond news release, and we get a massive jolt on tick, which I'll show you on the other SPY 2-minute chart here in a moment, and then we just rip for the rest of the day. What wasn't feeling it was the Russ. So Russ has not been as range bound as the other indices were last week. So last week we had a pretty good up day, and we had another kind of breakout day, gave it back, so V day, and then we range bound Thursday and Friday. Today we also stayed mostly range bound. So this was Friday's high here on the Russ, and yes, we did break out, but we did not really go anywhere. We mainly stayed in range all day. Even with that bond news, it did bring us up, but we basically peaked right back at the already established high for the day, and we rejected it multiple times later. So that was fascinating to me. Small caps, they're not nearly as bullish on the bond data. So flipping to the SPY 2-minute chart. So I've been preaching for months now the TWAP break and retest style trade, kind of that in candle pattern. We go up, we close back down, we close back above the band or below if you're short. So we had one of those today. It fired not in alignment to an hourly flip, so I would rather see this like around 10:30, 11:30, 12:30, 1:30. And we did get that today. It came at 10:04 Eastern time on the 2-minute chart, and that definitely failed. It closed quite aggressively below TWAP. This one hurt a little bit, and We bounced the previous day high, so this would be Friday's high price on SPY, and then we had another break and retest. So this one worked. And I didn't have enough deviation levels to signify just where profit targets and trims were. For myself today, taking this one, I definitely did not grab the full move today. It's very annoying, but basically I look for 2 standard deviations. So that's, for example, it's from here to here and from here to here. And I look to grab those. So the thing I do is I kind of have a rule for myself is when one of these major SD lines is reclaimed against me, I've detailed this in other videos, I will hop out typically. Just because typically what I have seen on normal days is when those are reclaimed against me, it's typically more downside after that. And that was mostly the case. You can see the add and volt bands were showing me a bearish trend. We already were kind of flirting with that here, and we had all this nasty candle action here to kind of hold through. Not a lot of tick, extreme 500 below or above breaks. So it was definitely feeling pretty weak and like it wasn't going to play out, but I'll stick to my rules. And so right here around 12:30, definitely get out, closed out, and I did secure more profits that way. But obviously, we had the next break back below and retest back above, and typically or technically the stop loss is TWAP. So per just pure TWAP break and retest style trading, this here was a successful signal, and it, if you're not using the range reclaim rule, you would have caught at least up to here if you're trying to catch 2 standard deviation move. If you're just trailing your gains and letting TWAP be your stop loss all the way to the end of the day, then you would have caught significantly more. And at some point, TWAP being your stop loss actually takes you into profitable stop territory, meaning even if SPY came all the way down here and stopped you out, you would still be closing out profitably and almost at the 2 SD line where I would have loved to have at least captured that much. But so we had the bond news, we had the data release, and then we ripped for the rest of the day. I think this is like 6th deviation from the entry, but per actual deviations of prior day's range, I think this is like the 10th deviation or some garbage. I mean, it's way up there. Okay, that would be the 11th deviation. It doesn't really matter. What it really just signifies is that price was far extended compared to prior day's range, which I think that's pretty obvious considering the high of Friday was all the way down here. Given that we had such a powerful move today, with the TWAP range being extended so much, we'll have a very large range for tomorrow if you're using TWAP. So today's TWAP range for the first standard deviation, that one is 86 cents, and this one was 91 cents. But this one will be tomorrow's. That's $2.42 range. Given what I've seen watching these ranges so often now, I would expect us to, unless they gap high above or below, but if they stay relatively within or around this range, I would expect us to trade within here tomorrow. And that will take us into a price range of 454, we'll call it, to 452. And then of course we'll have TWAP price, which usually with these large ranges, we'll at least hit that. That would be almost 453. I would expect this area to be our range area of interest tomorrow. We could see some back and forth, short, long, could be a zigzag consolidation V type day. So I'll be kind of watching for that. And I think that honestly perfectly lines up with the holiday week, the short week. I did not see a lot of price strength today. And that's one thing I'll bring up here as I finish this video out. Looking at add today, you can see for such a move that we had, the add started out below 0, and we also we did see negative 600 for just a brief moment before we brought all the way back up. We struggled with the 200 SMA. The highest we made it today was about 850. So 850 is ascending stocks, advancing stocks, and we never made it any higher. And even as SPY's heading up, we're starting to come down. We have the drop down here at the end of the day. Volume, it was bullish, but nowhere near like it was Friday. And we did have some bear volume Thursday last week, but definitely a lot of bull volume, but just not what I would have expected today, seeing what kind of day we did end up having. I mean, we didn't have a huge gap, but from the gap low to the high, we had almost a $5 move. Crazy stuff. New York Composite itself has been moving a lot more like the Russell. It did have quite a large gap here, which was nuts to see when the bond stuff was released. We had some. I mean, there's definitely gaps in the New York Composite. I don't know if this is a data issue on TradingView or not, but this one here, we get this large drop at the end of the day, and you come and look at SPY, and I don't know, it just doesn't feel as big. And then we had this little weird knife up. So I'm going to be cautious. I'm going to expect a little bit more consolidation, especially with where we're at on the SPY daily chart. Looking at the Qs is having more of a major breakout. So from our July time, we actually have beat that July price. So where SPY is still under, Qs is dragging us up and away. Now that's not all-time high on the Qs. The all-time high on the Qs is back in 21, and that would hit 404. Oh my god, 404, 408. So not a lot of volume if you consider volume profile. If you look at that at all, there's probably not a lot up here, right? We've got this huge area that hasn't been touched for, squeeze this in here, we'll just call it, man, time really flies, 600 and almost 700 days. Yeah, that makes sense. It's the end of 2023 almost, and that was basically the end of 2021. Dang. That's just really sinking in right now. So, very interesting moment. When you see this, there's a lot of different trading methodologies, Darvas box, breakout candles, different people have different terms for it. But when you see this, when you see like a period of consolidation, and then you see this, I call it like a middle finger candle, that's usually when there's potential for a huge buy. So anyways, I think you've got enough of my rambling. I appreciate your patience with me taking a little break on the videos. Like I said, I've just had a lot of personal things that I've had to deal with, so I just have not had the time to dedicate to making the videos. But I've seen more people are subscribing. I think I'm almost up to 100 subscribers, so really do appreciate if you have subscribed. I try so hard to not ask for subscribers. I don't ask for thumbs up. The only thing I ask for is comments. If you've got a question, or if you just have suggestions for the indicators or something I'm doing on the video or not doing, that's about the only engagement I'll ever ask for. Just because it does let me know people are listening and finding something of value or want to contribute in their own way somehow. So do appreciate that. Obviously with the holidays, I'm not going to be probably making as many videos, just the same as last week. I don't know that I'll make one Wednesday, and I'm certainly not going to make them at the end of the week. I will still try to post some on Twitter or X. I still keep calling it Twitter. So again, thank you for watching. As always, happy trading, and if you're celebrating the holidays upcoming, have a wonderful holiday, and I will talk to you soon.